5 minutes before starting. Okay, production quality actually did increase. Pretty impressed.
Let's go.
It looks so...
I mean, better than nothing.
I mean, look. And I just gotta... Okay, let's get rid of this. Remove. Oh, text. Add source. Color, what's pink? Oh, yeah, CK lad. Am I gonna see you in Sydney this time?
Sydney, yes sir, bro. You let me know. I'm down.
Fuck, bro.
Say the word.
You bet. How do not scuffed at all.
Not stuff. Oh.
Let's not talk about it. I'm getting too old for this, man. I was meant to finish my assignment yesterday, but it took me, yeah, I only read 100 words.
It's
Another 900 to go, I guess. Anyways, let me get questions. I got my water as well, so I'm hydrated.
Hard.
Alright. Alright. Shit, what are my questions? Scuffed host. There we go. There we go. I need to change the fucking commands. Oh, fuck me dead. Here we go. For fuck's sake, man. Why is Twitch so complicated?
Well, it get complicated.
This thing is so complicated. Alright. There we go. Command should be updated. Fuck! Yeah, it works. Alright. Where is it? Questions. Okay. I'm gonna drink a bit of water first. Alright. Shall we begin?
Shall we begin?
Fuck it. Alright. This is episode 4 of Punu's podcast, or what you chat likes to call the Puncast, after I misspelt it.
How did you...
Huh?
How did you misspell that one?
I put a Y instead of the T.
Oh.
Today we are talking about esports in OCE. Wow. And how underfunded everyone fucking is in OCE. So, with that out of the way, do you two wanna give a self introduction? Yeah. Any self introductions?
Hunter, my man. Have the pleasure.
So, my name is Oscar. I also go by Hunter. Hunter OCE underscore. H, as everyone likes to say. Um, I came from. I started off playing CS:GO as my main competitive game, and slowly, as Valorant came out, I moved to going into competitive Valorant.
Okay, not bad, not bad. Alright, Mr. Canada, CK.
Sheesh. Well, my name is CK, otherwise known as Kanade, and I played League of Legends for a short duration last year professionally. So that's me.
Okay, fair enough, fair enough. Alright, that kind of like does like the background, I guess. It's like, what kind of got you guys into playing like video games, right? So like, how did you guys get started playing like CS or like League, or like even Valorant? I mean, to be fair, Valorant's kind of like similar to CS, so that kind of makes sense. But more so like how you guys got started into playing games.
Hunter, have the pleasure.
Do you want me to go? Okay.
Someone take it away.
So, funny story actually. I got into CS through my babysitter back when I was younger. Because he would be playing CS 1.6 and I would be watching him play. And then he eventually taught me how to play. So I kind of started off playing at their place for a while every time I was there. And then eventually started playing it on my own. And as the year went on, um, my friends had CS:GO and they wanted to play it. So they got it for me and then I ended up playing CS with them. And then, I was obviously really shit at first. And then I just kept playing for years on and eventually climbing and then just playing competitive CS.
Wait, so you actually played competitive CS as
Yeah,
well, like before you played CompFel?
yeah.
Fuck! How'd that go?
Shit.
Is that why you're on Val now, not CS?
Um, it was mainly because I was so young, I wasn't working, I had no like way of paying for stuff online.
Like, how old are you at the time? Well, at this time?
When I was playing competitive,
Yeah.
um, I was 15.
Fuck, bro.
So I legally couldn't actually do anything either.
Okay, so legally can't. Because, what, you
Like
have to
I
be, what,
can't go
17
past
or 18 to legally
16.
play?
16.
16. Really?
Yeah,
16? It's that young?
I think so. I know it's like that for Val,
Ah.
but
So you're telling me
because like you can play competitively young, but it's like
you
there's
can't,
a
like,
part there's
legally
a
join
certain
a team?
point. There's a certain point where you can't go past until you reach a certain age.
Yeah, because I know for League, it's like minimum age to actually like play professionally on like a contracted team is like 17, 18. I'm not 100% sure. But like, wait, so you're telling me your babysitter, right? Like, how old are you at the time playing like CS? Like when you first
I was
started playing
10.
CS?
I was 10.
So you're telling me your babysitter was playing a shooter game in front of a 10-year-old?
Yep.
That is quite concerning. Not gonna lie, but you know what?
Yeah, when you put it on paper, it is pretty concerning.
Yeah, 10. How monka s is that? I also have an apple in my mouth. I guess I'll go because CK says he needs to BRB for 5 minutes. Um,
Yeah.
how did I start playing games actually? Because I don't play professionally or anything. I just have knowledge of esports and like OCE a bit in general. Um, shit. I think I started back in like like back in the day, like the Nintendo, like the DS Lights.
Yep.
Yeah, that. I think it was like Pokemon Pearl, like Gen 4 Pokemon. That was it. And then it was like, oh no, it was Wii Sports on the Wii, and then it was Nintendo, and then the DS. And then, I don't know. From there, it was like, because they're not exactly like what I play now. I think I played TF2 for like a good 5-ish years, and then I think I pivoted into League because I saw my family friends playing it when I was at theirs, and it was like, wow, this game's actually like so cool, and I decided to try it in like year 4, so that was around how old was I? 10, maybe 9, maybe 11, like between those 3 ages, and I don't think I've stopped playing ever since. It's kind of a problem. But I think from there, I think I kind of got more into the esports scene, like when I moved, because I used to live in the country, right? And because I live in the country, right, there's like absolutely nothing in the country. So like Bendigo, dude, that shit's like, everyone knows everyone, and no one knows anyone outside of the town. So when I moved to Melbourne, it was like a big thing, and I think I just got more into the esports scene because like most like conventions, they're like PAX and whatnot, right? PAX is in Melbourne. Like all the a whole lot of conventions are in Melbourne, so it's like you get more. What's the word? Experience? No, not even experience. It's just like more
Exposure.
What was the word you said?
Exposure.
Yeah, exposure. Yeah, exposure to like everything, right? And I think that definitely is what like propelled. It was like made me more interested in the esports scene, right? So I remember, what was it 2017? I went to PAX by myself. And I met like some League Pro players at the time, right? And it was like really cool. And I was like, shit. Maybe I mean, to be fair, at the time I was Golden League because I was pretty like I was like a shitter, and I was like, dude, this actually seems pretty cool. Also, hey Daff, and I literally that year I spammed so much League. Like I think I had what 1,000, 2,000 games at the end of the season,
Jesus.
and I was still gold. That's the saddest part. And then I think from that point on, every season I climbed the rank, and then I peaked around D2, D1, and then I just gave up because it was just like, you have to like put so much effort into actively thinking when you play, and like that's just a lot of effort I'm not willing to put in. So I've kind of more delved into the more coaching scene rather and like coaching and managerial, whatever the word is, scene, rather than the players, right? Because it's like it's a lot easier because you don't need to actually like use your hands and you still gotta actively think. It's just like not as hard, right? It's like I'm kind of soon to be varsity manager of Monash, but I'm currently varsity coach. But I guess that's kind of like it for me. It's yeah.
Yo, what's up, gamers?
Alright, welcome back. Alright, perfect. Just in time. How did
Yes,
you get into League? And
How did
video
I get
games?
into League?
Well, not even just League, just video games in general. And then like how did
Video
that like get
games
you
in
into
general.
esports or whatever?
You know, I think most of my time had always revolved around gaming because my friends were always really deeply involved into gaming. And at some point during my whole Minecraft phase, they had transitioned over to League of Legends like in 2012. I was like, sheesh, this game's pretty mad, say less. But I was always the person to like follow the crowd. So if they were playing a fuck ton of like CS:GO, I play CS:GO. If they played a fuck ton of Minecraft, I play Minecraft. And everyone had just stuck to League of Legends.
Mhm.
And to which a lot of my closest friends at the time, and to whom I still talk with to this day, like still play League of Legends, which is crazy. And how I got into what was the question? How are you going to like
esports
this
scene. So like, how did you
the
like
esports
go
scene?
from casual league player into like semi-pro league player?
So I had always been like very, very curious. Uh, at the time I participated in a lot of amateur tournaments, both online and LAN,
Mm-hmm.
but no matter if they were like wins or losses, it was always like a good experience with mates, like that kind of like thing to just like do something with friends.
Hmm.
And at the time, I wasn't that good, but I think I was diamond in season 5, and that was 2016. And what wanted me to get into the scene was actually doing the OPL finals at Luna Park, and I think this was 2016 as well.
Oh, the
And that was my
live.
first experience being in a professional event.
Ah.
Yeah, and I just remember being so like mesmerized that day, like how crazy like the crowds were when they cheered,
Oh, for
and
sure.
like that just like sparked something inside of me. Like at that moment, like I knew my dream was like to become the person like on that stage and have people like cheer for it. And I thought that was like so fucking cool.
Mm.
So that's what got me into the scene because I want to be like that person on stage.
Yeah, that's actually really valid. I remember when 2019, right? LCO they had
Mm.
LCO finals or OPL finals at the time in Melbourne at like MEO.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
I actually was helping out with the Mammoth booth, right? But like just watching the game and watching the crowd was just like the most like exhilarating feeling ever, right? Because it
Yeah,
was
it's like
just
sheesh.
they're huge crowds and holy shit, they are so loud and it's like
Exactly.
it's so nice. But it's just, I mean, to be fair, I think for like CS, I know for CS they had like IEM in Sydney, right? But I don't think you could have
Mm.
actually gone to that Oscar at the time because that was like a while
No.
back. And Valorant, mainly has been online.
Yep.
So it's like I can't. I think maybe they're having like something happening in Melbourne soon because I know MEO, which is the Melbourne Esports Open or like something open, is happening again this year. And I think they're having LCO finals here again. Um, I think they might have something like with shooters, maybe Valorant or like a Valorant amateur tournament. Oscar, maybe that could be you on stage. I don't know.
Maybe.
What's champ?
Pause champ. But I think it was just the aspect of just being in the crowd like really changes, I guess, your perspective of like what it's like to
Mm.
be a player. Because it's like
For sure.
not only do you have to play in front of like just like you play the finals, but like there's a whole bunch of like thousands, like hundreds of thousands of people. Maybe not hundreds of thousands, but like hundreds to thousands of people like watching and like cheering. I guess. I think that's like a definite like highlight of it. All right,
Mm.
so continuing on from that, then, what do we think? I guess like what are the experience like differences I guess between amateur and pro league and Valorant, right? Because like one of you's from a Valorant CS background, one of them's from a league background. I'm personally a league background as well, so it's like I guess kind of explain what it's like in that area, and then I guess you can kind of
Mm.
like contrast it off the other. Does that
I
make
guess we
sense?
can. Yeah, we can start with League if you want.
Alright, CK, take it
Oh,
away.
to my pleasure.
Yes.
So the difference between amateur and pro, honestly, that's such a large discrepancy between amateur and pro. Like, it's not even funny. It's to the point where the game experience is almost like entirely different.
Oh,
Like, as an
100%.
amateur, like your expertise and skills are mainly improved from what, like your own efforts in solo queue and
Hmm.
some amateur scrims. But the quality of the scrims is so low that you can argue that like solo queue is much better. And that's like, what? How does that make sense?
It depends where we
And
define amateur though, right? Because like amateur in league can be anything from like low diamond to like mid masters GM, right?
okay, honestly, amateur to me is anything below LCO.
Yeah, no,
If you're not
that's completely fair.
LCO, then you're an amateur.
Yeah,
That's just
so it's
how it
like
is.
OCS almost.
Yeah, like OCS. Like even if it's not OCS, just like tournaments like some talk or whatever just going on right now.
Yeah.
That's amateur. But pro is only once you reach like LCO. Like you can call yourself a pro.
Hmm.
And in I guess the amateur experience in contrast to pro, as a professional, the learning experience is so much more different. Like there's so much more emphasis on the basics of like the micro and macro. And honestly, the worst thing is receiving coaching from anyone who isn't a current or ex-pro. I would say it's almost meaningless.
Mm.
Like I had spent like before LCO, I'd spent maybe like 2 years like doing amateur,
Mhm.
and uh, all that time I spent with like all these amateur coaches and like doing these scrims. I had spent 2 hours with a pro player, and I had learned 10 times more than those 2 years, which is like question mark.
Yeah.
It's almost like the information and how you learn and how you improve as a pro is like that information is like gatekept to amateurs because no one teaches the amateurs how to play properly. So
Yeah.
that's why there's always such a big discrepancy in skill between the long-lasting like veterans of like LCO and up-and-coming pros.
100%. I mean, I feel like most coaches in amateur is like they're more focused like and more oriented on like something like more draft based rather than like actual
Yeah,
like
yeah.
game based knowledge.
It's
And
very
like
much like theory
yeah,
for sure.
and it really depends on like who you have as a coach, right? Because like for
Mm.
example, right, let's use Migs as an example. Migs
Okay, yeah.
is probably like without a doubt probably the most accomplished coach slash like I guess manager in OS. He's like in the OS scene without actually having being on a team, right? Like having spoken to him multiple times as well about like game knowledge, like drafts, whatever, right?
Mm.
Man's got like a fucking like infinite wisdom in his brain.
Yeah, man is smart, but then honestly, if you put Migs in a pro team, the pro players will never use Migs
Mm.
as like a coach. Like he'll be there to draft, but that's it.
Yeah, because I feel like the main like head coach, right? Like I don't know how it's
Mm.
like. What's the difference in like head coach and like assistant coach? Because one's probably for draft, right? And then maybe another one's like for VOD reviews, whatever, right?
Um, so head coaches, like the assistant coaches, are there to learn from the head coach and to learn how the head coach is teaching the pro players.
Right.
Like usually you wouldn't put two big name coaches together. You
Mm.
put one big name and like an intern. That'd be a better way to say it. They're just interns. They're just there to learn.
Ah,
Like sure they can teach some things to the pros, but they're mostly there to like absorb information and absorb like how the environment is as a pro.
that's fair. Because I know Miggs's experience is mainly in coaching uni, right? So like
Yeah.
UNSW's varsity team.
Mm,
Most of my experience comes from also coaching Monash's varsity team, and
yeah.
it's like you don't really go into VOD reviews or like I guess theory as much
Mm.
as it's just like purely draft based, right?
Yeah, for sure. Mix is great in amateur because a lot of the people in amateur, especially uni games,
Mm.
into which he coaches, they're very much like, oh, they just play league casually, but they happen to be something a little bit better than average, like diamond, master, or even better.
Yeah.
And Migs is like the stepping stone between them being fresh and playing solo queue to like, oh, the experience to amateur and how it's like to play as a team and what's it like to learn as a team.
Oh,
And that's what Migs
100%.
is really good at, like bridging that boundary between just solo queue players and amateur.
Oh, 100%. And it's
Mm.
like what because QT is into varsity tournament just it's like about wrapping up, right? And then like
Yeah,
based off from all the teams I've seen and slash played against, just from a coach perspective, they like a good example would be like RMIT, right? They have
yeah,
five GMs, but the way they play the map is so incohesive.
for
Like
sure.
specifically, we had like I had one draft. We were down by like 5k gold, 10k at like 20 minutes, and they couldn't end for like 25, another 25 minutes. And it's like that
Mm,
incohesiveness is like only something you could find in like something like amateur, right? Because they don't
for sure.
know what the fuck they're doing. They're not
I have
exactly
no
a
idea.
team. They're just five good solo queue players.
Hmm.
All right.
Oh,
What about you then, Oscar? What's like the difference for you between like amateur and pro? Because I know you're still like amateur,
Um,
right?
I mean, I was, I don't know, I was kind of a bit of both. It's just like, because the way people identify amateur and pro in Val at least
Mm.
is based on what league you're playing in LPL. So like most so ama we have an amateur section, and then we've got an evolution, which people call their semi-pros, and then you've got your legends or challengers, who you call your pros.
Right.
Um, and being in league with the legends makes like people would consider you a pro,
Right.
but the main difference I feel like is like the experience and the understanding of the game. It's very different because with amateur Valorant versus a pro, like a amateur team versus a pro team, an amateur team is like a team that can play the game to a high level individually. So they know like their game sense is pretty up there. But when you combine 5 players put to make executions and like good teamwork, it is not really there.
So,
And then with hmm?
what would you say your? Because I know you played for High, right? I don't know what other teams you've
Yeah,
played for before that, but like, what would you say your experience on High was like? Was it like semi-pro, amateur, or like pro?
I'd say it was semi-pro.
In what way?
Um, because we were competing against like other semi-pro teams, and I think we competed against one pro team. Um, played pretty well against them. We won all of our semi-pro games, but the only issue was that we weren't cracking enough as well, and we weren't really doing enough. But I definitely think that we could have been up there had we put in the time and effort.
Okay. I think the biggest like question I have is like 'cause obviously like Valorant has coaches, right? But like
Yep.
the way it's like conceptually League and Valorant are like two very different games.
Yeah.
So I'm just like is it like for Valorant coaches is it just like entirely based on like map play and rotations or like is it like also is it just
So
mainly that or is it like something more to it?
yeah, I mean that makes up most of it. Um, the way most coaches do coaching for Valorant is sit in a um team call, VOD review as a team, and we will pick out like we'll go through every round roughly
Hmm.
and just see what everyone is doing and kind of learn to notice patterns quicker and kind of fix up our mistakes that we make during it. Because so the coach basically points things out for us,
Right.
um, and tells us what we need to work on to have an advantage in that situation.
So is it like for like could you give like an example?
So like, say you're playing on Ascent, right?
Right.
You have, um, like this is probably like the most basic thing, but um, say you have two holding A, two holding B, one holding mid on defense.
Right.
Um, and most people, the moment they hear sound, generally will just run to rotate to the opposite side. So say this sound towards B, everyone runs towards B.
Right.
But know what, like, say the enemy team hasn't committed any util yet, and
So you're saying I guess wait, what was I gonna say?
sorry, I got interrupted
No,
by
no,
some
it's
stuff.
all.
Um, yeah, so say you got the sound B and your team rotates from A.
Hmm.
Um, the coach would probably call out the team for over rotating and would probably ask something like, what util would they want to commit to actually execute before you rotate.
Mm-hmm.
So if they've thrown like a server dart, they've used Omen Blend, then they're more likely to commit to that than say if they just threw a couple of Sage Slows, one Reyna Eye, they probably won't commit off that.
Yeah, that's fair.
So it's like a lot of decision making in the moment that we kind of get told about rather than like how to play each individual fight.
That's fair. Would
Yeah.
you, then Seeker, would you think that's like kind of similar to how I guess coaches review league games like outside of draft? It's more so like
Um,
how to play the map more because like mechanically, right? It's not like I don't think like coaches should like work on like play mechanics specifically. It's more so like the bigger like picture, right?
I honestly feel like coaches were only there to facilitate discussion, or at least in my experience. I don't know if it's just very heavily biased because I didn't really know much
Mm.
from the amateur coaches, to be honest. But they had mostly just been there to help the team discuss amongst each other what we could have done better.
Mm.
Unless it was a pro player who was teaching me
Mm.
or assisting the scrim, then the coaches would just be like, okay, in this situation, what could have been done better in order to secure a better lead? It'd
Right.
be stuff like that. Or they'd point out, or they'd be like hinting things we could have done better, but it'd be mostly up to the team to problem solve and see what could have been done better.
Okay. So then, what's like the biggest? I guess like what? I guess what do you usually get from like if you like learn from a pro compared to like a coach, right? Because obviously there's gonna be like a big difference, but it's just in what way?
In what way? Um, they don't teach you the very minuscule things. Say, so when I was learning off TN
Mm.
Romeo, he is a top main.
Yeah.
He doesn't play support like me, but his depth of knowledge on support far exceeded anyone else who was able to coach me. He was able to teach so many basic concepts, which just makes sense,
Right.
but doesn't get taught otherwise.
Right.
Say, the one thing that has always stuck with me is a concept called Fog Warrior,
Okay.
and it's pretty much okay. You sit in the fog so the enemy doesn't know where you are. It's
Mhm.
like this Sun Tzu Art of War. It's like how your enemies want, like if your enemies think you're near, then you should be far, but if your enemies think you're far, then you should be near. Something like that.
Okay.
So just being out of vision, being in the right place, right time. No one teaches you this stuff
Yeah.
unless like, you know, even in solo queue, you can have an idea, but it's never taught. And basic micro decisions like that
Mm.
is what really helps improve a player because these concepts really mold into every problem you get given. Because yeah, League of Legends is a problem-solving game.
Yeah.
You get given a problem, you take the right outcome, you secure small leads, and then you win the game.
Yeah.
And pro players just teach you a lot of things and give you a lot more options to work with, rather than a coach, an amateur coach, who will just teach you very broad things, which fit like every scenario, but not things
Yeah. So it's like a
specifically.
very general, like I guess, view of the game rather than like something very specific that you can focus on. So it's like
Yeah, it's very
compared
hard to
to
explain without having like a very specific context to talk about without seeming like
because it's
too,
like
you
I
know,
think
yeah.
what it's like saying you should have done like you should have been here on this timer instead of here, right? But like they just say that instead of like going more specific, like what you should have like done on the way to that, like I guess place that you should have been, kind of.
Um, s- okay, in that logic, we can say amateur coaches would give you one option, be like, okay, instead of you being in bottom lane, you should have rotated to Herald instead.
Right.
But as a pro player, they would go more depth and be like, okay, before you even took the decision to come here, you should have taken these decisions to consider like the Herald in like a minute, and why you should have backed to this spot, or why you should have communicated to your teammates to rotate to the Herald first. And
So
if that
like,
was
yeah.
an option, then the Herald shouldn't be considered at all. So they give a very large amount of detail in what could have been done in that circumstance,
So
and what you could
yeah,
have done better in that circumstance, not
pretty
just
much
everyone.
encouraging you to think ahead of time. So like 2 minutes before Herald spawn or whatever, right? You can like you already look at your options. Like, what? How can I set myself up to be in spot for Herald on time, or like, how can I come with my team if we want to go Herald, or like look for something on the other side of the map, kind of thing, right?
Yeah, it's pretty much that. It's very much like not just talking about in the moment, but also
Leading up to the
why
moment,
leading up to the moment, and that's a big difference, I'd say.
because I remember yesterday, right? I was having a discussion with my team. It was like okay, it was a Teemo pick, and it
Yeah,
was like, how do you set up like how do you fight team fights with Teemo, right? And it's in theory, it's just you push out the lane like on the side of the objective you're looking to fight, and then you shroom the objectives,
yeah,
and then you just tell your team to get first like what do they call it, like just river control in that objective zone, and then you recall and split in like the opposite side of the lane. So you still
yeah,
have presence at their objective, but you're also pressuring the other side of the map.
yeah.
And I think that's probably like the best way you could utilize Teemo. But it's like it's really like because like for amateur people like players, right? It's really hard to like I guess wrap your head around that like while you're in game because you have like so many things thinking like to be thinking about.
Oh, for sure. Like it's so hard to grasp like everything in one go, and it's not just one person who can be able to do it, but everyone has to fully understand why it's being done.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they've all been playing solo queue for years to get to the point where they are, so like habits don't change instantly, and that's why amateurs remain amateurs for
A
a
while.
very long time,
Yeah.
on average at least. Yeah.
That actually gives I get speaking of like I guess champions also, that actually makes me really curious. With Valorant, right? What's drafting like? Because I'm like 100% sure there's no way you pick like 5 random agents and just like fucking wing it.
No, no. So we actually
I'm assuming there's a
we
theme.
actually come up with strats. We look at past metas. We look at current meta. Um,
Right.
it's so if most of the time, um, at least in I know in amateur, at the very least, they will go with whatever you're comfortable with. So you get your roles. You mainly have people who with their comfortable roles, and then whatever their most comfortable agents are.
Right.
You play that just to see how that goes, and then you kind of see how, like, if you have a coach, the coach will look at their play style and kind of like reach out to each player or tell each player what they would suggest, what agents they want them to learn to kind of fit the team better.
Yep.
And a lot of it will be coordinated based on map. So say on split, you would probably have at the time it was meta, it was Raze, Sage, Viper, Astra, and Sky. So basically you would have your Viper and Astra, Astra being your main smoke, your Viper being your main Senti type agent,
Right.
your Sage and Sky being flexible, Raze being your main duelist, and you could basically alternate between like Sky was probably the main like agent that was flexible in what could be swapped around. So you could have Sky Breach, or like some teams like to run two duelists, other
Okay.
teams don't like to run duelists at all.
Because I'm assuming you can't like fully, I guess, commit to one style because you have to play both like attack and defense, right? So it's like if you purely
Yeah,
draft for like defense, you're gonna get completely fucked if you like you low roll the first half and you get rolled for it. You get attack. You start attacking side because I'm pretty sure isn't that like what a sense happened to like 100 Thieves, right? That one game
yeah,
because they completely drafted for like playing defense, and then they
yeah,
got 12 0 on attack because they started attack. And
yeah,
I was reading like if they like that specific comp they drafted was more for like defense, and they just lost because it just like I guess in a sense it's like a shit draft, right? Because you're only preparing for one side.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's like I don't know. Some it's just I think you just have to like find like the right balance, right? It's like or is it like a theme that you're going for each draft?
It's really all map based because there are just some agents that are a lot better for some maps and some that are absolute doo-doo on other maps.
Right.
Like Raze is good on like Split and Bind, but it's horrible on a map like Breeze.
So you're saying that each map in itself would have its own theme that
Yep.
would, I guess, change how you draft, like
Yeah.
because drafting with League is like you have to keep your comp on theme. You can't have like a comp that wants to like I guess play for disengage, but then you have like a guy who's just like running it in all the time because that's the only thing his champ can do. That's like very like it's like I don't know how to describe drafting. It's just like you either draft on theme or it's just like it's a bit whack. And that's just how it is like kind of every game. So it's kind of like interesting to see how the theme of draft changes like per map, like in Val. And it's like
With
kind of
Val,
yeah, you see the same.
the duelist usually is the same.
Yeah.
Like, generally it is the same. It'll probably be like one or two changes. Generally it is a Jet or Raze in like pro teams, it's usually Jet or Raze. You don't really see many of the other duelists just because they're not as effective anymore with the newer agents coming out. Like with Sky being out,
Right.
it kind of ruined Phoenix as a duelist,
Oh,
so
because
Sky just does
bird
it better.
flashes.
Yep.
Ah. I guess that's fair actually. So then, what you would use like because Valorant has different roles, right? And if it's like if
Yep.
I take it like I don't want to compare it to Overwatch with its roles, but like let's like you usually draft like what one duelist, two duelists, and then like two sentinels initiator, or like
It would be like
obviously it's map dependent, but like what's like the most
standard. I think for most beginner teams, it would be two duelists, one Senti, one initiator, one controller. For a very standard team.
yeah that
But
makes
with a lot of teams coming up, like the pro teams, they like to run one duelist only. So it'd be one duelist, mixture between, depending on map, either two initiators or two controllers,
right.
or even on maps maybe like Fracture, two Sentis.
Okay.
But duelist is rarely a double up nowadays.
That's actually really fair because it's like drafting, but like the difference. I think the biggest, obviously, difference between the two games in drafting is like the game itself. Like Valorant, you have like such limited amount of agents. I mean, obviously they're gonna like the roster's gonna increase over time, but like there's not really much room, I guess, for like flexibility on like how you can play your character in its like intended role.
Yeah.
Because it's like you're either like because if you're like playing like Sage or something, like you're there to like just I guess half control with slow orbs and half just to deny with wall and also heal. Like if you kind of play Battle Sage, you're kind of like I guess neglecting at least a bit of your util.
Yep.
Whereas I think with League, right? I don't know if like I don't like correct me if I'm wrong, CK, but it's like almost every champion you can play like differently. Like there's no like there is a set way of like playing it, but like you don't actually have to adhere to that to like get max potential.
You're not wrong.
Because like I think like, a good example, right? 2017 Worlds Meta, Ardent Sensor, right? Everyone's playing fucking Shielders and Enchanters.
Oh yeah.
And then you have Fervor Leona coming out of nowhere.
Oh, I remember that.
And like
That was sick.
no one at the time really plays Fervor Leona. Like Leona at that time, the meta was piss poor. And you just play Leona as like a CC bot. I think you would run Courage of the Colossus, it was at the time.
And that was for what, the SKT bot
Yeah,
lane,
that was
Wolfen,
the Misfits
yeah,
SKT
thing.
game. And it's like, because he played Leona as more of a fighter rather than like a tank support, it's like, he really like min-maxed the value out out of his champion at the time. And I feel like with Valorant's agents, because of like the selective roles, you kind of can't do that. Or you're not like, it's not that you can't, it's just you don't have as much freedom to do that anymore. Maybe, and like I feel like that's mainly because like the game genre, right? Because you have to like watch certain like angles and whatnot to like when you're holding sights and stuff. And it's like if you
Yeah.
kind of leave your post, I guess in a sense, there's like a gap that they can just go through without anyone knowing.
Yeah. Because the whole point is to not have any leaks,
Yeah.
which is like the concept of not having a space where they can push through without anyone knowing.
So would you say that it's more so playing to prevent leaks rather than punishing their potential leaks?
It's more playing like to make plays as a team, both with smaller groups and as an entire team.
Right.
And then the leak part is more team coordination and communication.
Okay.
Because realistically, you don't need any util to watch it. It's just you need to let people know what you're watching and what you're not watching and where they can be.
Yeah, that's actually really valid. Alright. With that in mind, then what is, I guess, the dumbest or like what's like the most intriguing experience you've had within like the esports industry as like that can be like stupid, dumb, whatever. Just like what's the most interesting thing you've like I guess experienced? Either one of you can take it away.
Yeah, Hunter, have the pleasure.
Um, I think I think seeding is probably the dumbest thing that I've ever experienced in general. In specific tournaments.
Right.
So seeding is never based on how good a team is. You can get matched against any team. So the worst team, like, because there was actually a time, where we got drafted against a for fun team who were a bunch of bronze players who just signed up.
Right.
So we got past the first round for free, basically. But then the second game is like, okay, we're versing a full-on pro team. And the seeding doesn't actually work in a way where like ranked teams or like similar skill level teams play against each other. It's just they just throw it in and then whatever we get is what we
Complete
get.
RNG seeding, right? Rather
Yeah.
than like something based off skill.
Yeah.
That's actually kind of dumb. Like, I feel like if they base it off skill, right, it's just based off average skill rank, or like, is it based off? Would they be basing it off where you place usually in a tournament?
I think it should be placing the like known teams in the same bracket rather than just chucking everyone everywhere.
Yeah.
Because like a lot of teams who do come again in the tournaments do participate multiple times, but
Hmm.
they don't actually take that into consideration.
That's fair. What about you then, Mr. CK?
The dumbest experience. It's a hard one actually. There's so many moments.
I mean,
I feel
Like,
that. I
my guy,
feel
honestly,
it is
that.
a podcast. You can
there
take it away.
there are so many needless like drama that happens in the pro scene. Like what? But I'm trying to think of one specifically. No, I don't have something on my mind currently, but something interesting. So you know Tainted Minds.
Oh my god, yes.
So Tainted Minds was the what would you call it?
Fiesta? Shit
The
show? Circus?
yeah, the circus. Like it fucked Oceania. It made our region look like pissed. And what's interesting is that Tainted Minds was originally Chiefs Black
Right.
before, and this was actually back in 2015, I believe. I had been on the opposite side on another organization, and I was forcing Chiefs Black to promote into the pro scene.
Mm-hmm.
So what's crazy is that we ended the series 2-3. Like I lost, and it is what it is. And Chiefs Black went on to become Tainted Minds. So had I won those games, Tainted Minds would have never existed.
So you're saying your loss is pretty much the reason why Tainted Minds exists?
Yeah, you can say that. My loss was the reason why Tainted Minds exist and everything blew up.
Huh.
So that's an interesting thing.
Would you like to go over the Tainted Minds drama for everyone who
No,
doesn't know?
to be quite honest, it was fucking so long ago. I've repressed all memories of it, but
Yeah, no, fair
that
enough.
was an interesting fact.
Honestly, Tainted Minds shit was just when I read about it, right? It was just so dumb,
Mm.
and
And
I just didn't get it.
yeah, and honestly, um early years of esports in Oceania were just not it. I remember being on one team on 2015. It was called SNT, like Sentinels,
Right.
and they had actually been one of the first organizations to import a player from Korea.
Oh.
And that person imported was a person called Sazahu, and it was a top laner.
Right.
So the owner had promised that this team would be the first organization in OCE to have a gaming house, likewise to many other regions at the time.
Right.
And this would be a big step for us to like, set standards. So import comes in and he's living at a fucking internet cafe. There's no gaming house, and owner has to offer him to live in Canberra when the studio's in Sydney for him to survive in Australia. And
That's so fucked.
so imagine being the first imported player to OCE, having a promised gaming house, likewise to many of the like the Korean, China, NA, Europe
Right.
regions, and then being fucking homeless pretty much.
Yeah, because like the thing with OS industry, right? There's not a lot of money funded into it
Yeah, no way. There's no money at all.
because, well, I think the biggest thing that happened, like especially for League as well, right? When what Riot Games pretty much just like fucking bailed in OS.
In fact, they had bailed because the OPL had been running on a loss every year,
Mm.
and that's why we don't have OPL anymore.
Is it because they just didn't get enough viewers?
It's just they didn't get enough revenue in general.
Right, because I'm assuming they make the revenue off viewers, events, tickets, like whatever, right? But like it's a
Yeah,
percentage.
something of the sort. But from my information, I just know that they had significant losses every year, and it was not sustainable to continue.
Yeah, because then that's when IEM took over, right? Or ESL, whatever
Hmm.
it's called.
Yeah, ESL.
That's actually, huh? So is like Riot and OS just completely gone now? Like, or is it just obviously the servers are still there, right? It's just like all
Pretty
management
much
kind of.
just gone as a whole.
That's
There's no more Rito.
honestly, it's like not too. I mean, it's pretty shit, right? But like, I think if ESL didn't take over for like the league scene, I'm not sure if it's like the same with Valorant, right? Or like stuff. But if ESL didn't take over the league scene, dude, holy shit, OS League is just dead. And with most of the players, like most of the actual good players, like I want to say most of the actual good players, but like the OG good players being all imported to NA, whether it's like coaches or like just players, the
Mm.
talent was definitely drained. I remember I remember hearing, I don't know if it's actually true, but like some of the players in LCO this year are like masters or like GM peaks.
There were even like diamonds in LCO when I
Yeah,
was
and it was
playing.
like the talent, like the talent we have left in OS is just so minimal now.
Yeah, it became more like so LCO is what, 8 teams?
Yeah, 18.
After everyone fucked off, it became more like, okay, there's 4 pro teams, and now the 4 best teams in amateur were promoted to LCO.
Right.
That's what it became. So it became a split. Like, okay, you have 4 teams of respected players and like the remaining veterans, and the other 4 teams were just, okay, we had to fill in the gaps. So here you are. You were
Yeah,
promoted not because you were good, but because there was no one else.
because like what I think the top few NA kidnaps OS players that are good. Yeah, lad. Yeah, exactly, Wilson. Like, I think fuck esports, OS esports. Hey, Jamie. Like, I think this just applies to everywhere, right? Every good OS player in whatever game, they pretty much just get plucked out of OS and taken to NA. And
It's
it's
more
like,
like, for us, the end game is North America. There's
yeah,
no future in staying in OCE. Like, if you really want to strive to become the best and become a professional League of Legends player, you're striving to go to NA.
yeah,
Yeah, and that's only something a very select few can actually accomplish.
yeah. Because at the end of the day, no one really wants to stay in OS. Like,
Mm.
everyone knows OS is kind of doomed as a whole for esports, right? Like, lack of funding, like talents, like getting smaller and smaller every year, right? And all the
Yep.
good, talented like players that they have is just no one wants to stay in OS. That's why like if they get put like taken to NA, it's a good thing for them. But for OS, it's like, ah, shit, another one of our players have gone to NA. Now there's like less talent.
Pretty much. And then no one's left to really teach the future generation.
Yeah. So like,
No, it's just a bunch of amateur coaches pretending like they can be something, but they're not.
so we have an actual professional Fortnite player here. Happened with some of my mates in Fortnite. A few of them went NAEU. OS ceiling is so low because our practice is garbage. So even our best players get ran over in their first year in other regions. That's actually really true. Like, I remember, was it Destiny, right? He got imported to EU for League
Mm.
after 2019. So he played 2020 in EU. Like, he was good, but like he wasn't the best.
Yeah, he was playing on Origin,
Yeah,
I
and he
believe.
had like
Yeah.
upset. Like he actually had good. Like he had a good, pretty solid team as well. And then I think come second split, he got benched. And then he went. And then he went to NA, and it's like they just never like. Those players just never seem like up to cut for like just they don't seem up to the standard of like the other players, right? And it's like I guess that's just kind of how it is because like OS quality is just so bad because our region is just kind of dead.
Yeah, pretty much. Like our top tier players very much um fit into the middle of the pack of the top tier players in other regions.
I'm not sure if there's like a case for this in Valorant. There might be, but like the biggest example of like an OS player doing well in another region, it has to be Fudge. Like started in OS, won LCO in 2019, got taken to NA, and then now plays for C like the main roster for C9 for the last 2 years now. And like he's like consistently probably like the best player in his role, if not like top two.
Yeah, I'd say Fudge or
Oh, FBI is also
actually
pretty
no,
good.
FBI,
Yeah,
yeah.
Fudge and FBI are actually really good. And I think those are like the two big outliers that like Oceanic League has for OS, right?
So far, yes. Actually, I think some of the support players right now in NA are doing really well. Like Isla's doing really well, and
Oh yeah, Isles. Ayla is actually doing quite well as well. I remember when he subbed in for TL.
mm,
It's like I feel like you have to be like exceptional in OS to be able to have a chance in NA or like another region.
for sure, it's crazy, but that's just how it is.
Yeah. What about Val then, Oscar? Is that like similar for you guys in Val? I'm assuming it's
Oh
like
yeah,
pretty similar.
100%, bro. Because OC is so small, even at like high elo, you verse the exact same people,
Mm.
like all the time. Like even in Immortal, um, you verse the same few people. We kind of recognize everyone, but like to be when it comes to competing in OCE,
Hmm.
to make it to NA, there it basically takes an entire year. because Riot doesn't actually give many opportunities for OCE to do NA qualifiers because we're not really counted as part of it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why most players do move to NA or get picked up by an org in NA. I think prime example of this was EXO, who got picked up by Sonics.
Right.
And players like Crunchy, Plix, Dizzy, Bob, and those got and Iron got picked up by Sonics and moved to America to NA for that.
Like, yeah, because I know like, and it's like especially for like practice as well, right? High elo practice is really hard because you're ultimately playing against the same players almost every time, and because like the people in that elo are so like there's so many little people like so little of people in that like area, queue times are extended, like queue times are like omega increased, right? And the quality of the games are also mega decreased because I think the way the algorithm works is they want you to find the game as soon as possible, so they don't really value the quality of the game over how long it takes to get into a game.
Mm.
And like I guess that kind of leads us into what solo queue, right? What's like solo queue for like high elo, right? That's kind of what it is, right? Like, is there like anything like more special or outside of that? I guess. Because like, what's this like?
Compared
I think the
to
biggest thing is like, what's the biggest difference between high elo Val and high elo League?
mm,
I'd probably guess nothing at all, to be honest.
no, I don't think there'd be much of a difference.
Mm.
Cause like with it's just extremely competitive and like you got to do your best as a player at the end of the day.
I think maybe the only, probably not even, probably the same anyway, but for League, the difference, like, you could be challenger, but the difference between like a 1k LP challenger and like a 500 LP challenger is like night and day.
Oh
It's like
yeah.
Yeah.
low diamond compared to like GM. It's like that much of a difference.
Oh, 100%.
So you can imagine how games are like in high elo when you have a challenger 1k LP versus like a fucking another like master ADC. Like it's just so unfair.
Oh, 100%. Like, I've seen that like
Yeah.
so many cases, so like almost all the time, right?
Mm.
Yeah, for sure.
What about for Val?
Hey, no, it's the exact same. A 500 ranked Radiant versus top 10 Radiant is fucking also night and day. Like they're up there for a reason. People who touch Radiant very slightly at the bottom probably just play a lot. Like they play well, but they just probably play a lot. In order to maintain top 10 to top 50 is like a huge ceiling gap.
Yeah, because like queuing late night league sometimes as well. Like some of the lobbies I get are like really fucked. Like I saw like one of my friends queue, right, and he's playing in Southeast Asia and he's like masters. He queued into like a game with like old GMs, and then he had like a gold Smurf on his like. Obviously it's a Smurf, right? But like, imagine if it's like no, like a D4 player, right? Like how fucked is that? Because then that ruins the quality of the game as well as like it's just what's the point of playing it out if one lane or like one player is just gonna be permanently getting fucked.
True. That's why like in NA champions coexist on
Mm.
China. There's super server.
Yeah, and like Korean
Yeah.
solo queue is just like Korean solo queue. The players like all like really like insane.
Yeah, pretty much.
I guess the biggest thing with Valorant is because can you actually 5 stack when you get into Radiant and stuff, or is like can you only like 2 stack?
You can 5 stack, there's just a penalty to how much
Ah,
rating you get, but duo is no penalty.
I see, I see. So, because then I know with League is you can't duo past Masters anymore. And then I think next season they're considering just removing duo queue from solo queue entirely, right? So I think
What the?
with that in mind, right, it's kind of like you kind of get like I guess you kind of can like scrim as a 5 stack, right? Like if you're on a pro team, and you can just scrim ranked because you can 5 stack. Whereas with League, it's like you kind of can't unless you have like specific scrims, because flex isn't exactly like what you call scrim quality. Because
No, because there's like I think okay, me not being a full league player, but me playing league casually,
mm,
as someone who does play flex, it feels like it's because you can queue with any rank
yeah,
that the quality will never be good because you're never gonna get the same amount of skilled players. They're
yeah,
just gonna chuck you in a game because they can.
that's just how the system works, right? Oh, let's have a look here.
I
Motivation. There's
love
nothing,
Riot games.
nothing you can do with an OS. Most of the time, you just gotta send it to NA. You hope you can compete. Yeah, because I think it's just the level of quality of practice is so big. Like the difference as well is so big between OS and other regions, whether it's just because of resources, players, talent, whatever, right? That it's just really hard to like, I guess, get out there as like a pro player from OS.
It's mentality as well. Like everyone who's striving in OCE, they all have the same mentality where, oh, OCE is doomed, but I'm not
Mm,
at that caliber where I can be fucking imported to NA.
right.
So a lot of like the really strong talents, they don't even play professionally. They just boost or they
Yeah.
fuck around.
I mean, the
Like,
thing is, right?
th yeah.
The thing with boosting as well, like, you make so much more money off boosting than you can do from getting a contract in OS.
Oh, for sure, for
Too
sure.
real.
Too
Too
real.
real.
Like
Too
the latest drama, right, was what the team that went to World in 2021 piece. They still haven't gotten paid,
Yep.
and like that's kind of fucked because they're still like it's just like what what are they supposed to? They just don't get paid, right? Like, wouldn't you rather like be boosting someone's account? Like, obviously it's illegal, but you get paid so much more. And like, League is technically a free game, and you don't on it like you don't really lose anything off boosting other than just like what you can't play LCO. But like, even then, if it's like if you're not going to play LCO to play like, I feel like you play LCO for like number one is exposure, because you're kind of like building a name for yourself and when you play LCO, right? That's like the biggest
Yeah.
thing. You don't really do it for the money. The money is like a second thing. But like when you play enough like competitive, it starts to become less and less about the brand and more about like the money. Like, is this sustainable? Like, will this sustain me for like the next like few years or whatever, right? And it's like, considering how little you get paid, so many players just opt into like boosting because it's just so much more income and it's so much more sustainable.
Yeah, I think the general concession is that no one in OCE plays pro for the money, and it's only based on the experience.
real.
And people just get to a point where they're like, I've played pro long enough, but it's no longer something that is like fun or feasible, or the like competitive levels decrease so much because everyone gets fucked off to NA that they don't feel motivated anymore to like or just the drive to improve. So they
Right.
just fuck off. And that's the problem really with high elo.
Would you say it's the same then for Val? Like, is that like sentiment still kind of there, or is it like a bit different?
No, I think it's played it for exposure than it is for money, just because how how poor of a decision it is to invest in an OC team professionally,
Mm,
like how much money it is to invest in a team, knowing that they're not gonna make it to the big like league without any exposure. Like you might be really good, but like if no one notices you, then you're not gonna be able to have an opportunity to play on the same
mm.
like like platform as all the top teams.
Yeah, because it's like what I remember. I think I don't know if I was thinking maybe like I was talking to Louisa about it, but like I think they got offered a spot to play LCO, but it's just like the amount of like money you need to like pay to first actually like, claim an LCO spot. You know, it's financially not like worth, because the amount of money you have to put in to get a spot compared to the amount of money you'll get out is just definitely not worth. And it's
Yeah, for sure. You're always gonna be in the reds.
And it's just like, what point is like, is there like really a future, I guess, in esports for OCE? Like, because this trend has been happening for like a while now, right? Like more than a few years. Like, I just don't see OCE really changing, other than like outside of being like, oh, we're just like a talent pool for like NA or EU to just like pick out, because it doesn't cost them an import slot.
Mm.
Like, do you guys think it will change, or
I don't.
Nope, FF. It's
like
doomed.
our region is pretty doomed?
Yeah. Like even with some of the like OCE teams that go to like the big stages, like even in other games, I feel like they are eliminated so quickly because
Mm,
they're so used to the same play style because we don't have exposure to any other regions.
yeah, and
Like all we can do is watch them, but playing against them is completely different feel.
oh, 100%. That's why like any like OCE team that goes to like an international event, right? It's not about winning. It's more about what you can learn from playing against them, because watching them isn't going to give you much info. Watching them is only going to give you like how they play and how they draft. I'm not sure if it's the same for Valorant. I'm assuming it's like somewhat similar, right?
Yeah.
But playing against them is completely different, because you can't predict what will happen in the game. Like, you may have an idea based off like previous games, but it's like 90% of the time it's completely different, and you're just not ready for it. And I think the biggest experience for this is, or like not experience, but like the biggest example of this, right, is Order. You know, the OCE team that went to MSI, right? They got 0-8'd by like NA and EU. And it's not because they're bad, it's just because they can't play against actual good teams and good players in OCE, because they're the best of like from our region, right? And it's like that's as good as practice as they'll get like here.
Mm.
Whereas NA, right? I mean, okay, NA, I can't exactly use NA as a joke. NA as a like reason. Like they're kind of a bit fucky as well. But it's like EU. They have so much talent and so many ways to like get high quality practice, whether it's from their own like league or like even like amateur leagues, like their amateur leagues, like what, LFL or something like that. And like the quality scrims there is actually also good. And that's also why like a lot of teams do boot camps as well, right? They go mainly in Korea, right? And it's like, because Korean solo queue quality is really high, they just go train there. But it's like, at the end of the day, how does that really apply to what you're gonna do in game in like a actual like league match, like on stage, I guess? So it's like we're really getting fucked, because our good teams are just not good enough, because we don't have any team that can actually challenge.
Okay, but to be fair, with this year, you could even argue Order didn't really deserve to be at Worlds or MSI, whatever.
Yeah,
But Chiefs,
yeah,
they had actually some insider information. They had actually kicked Draku to bring on another support called Aladoric. And the moment they picked up Aladoric, he had been comp banned for a year because of toxicity. So they had to bring back Draku
So was this year or last year?
this year.
But
Just
didn't
before, just like a week or so before the finals, they kicked Draku, sent him from the gaming house in Queensland back to Sydney,
right?
and then they had to fly him back up. So there was already so much insider drama that happened on Chiefs. Like it's no wonder Order had won the finals.
Because wasn't wait. So how did Alec Durek get a year ban? Because didn't he play for Peace during 2021?
Yeah, but the man has always been notoriously known as like
A toxic
toxic.
player.
Yeah,
Mm.
and
Too many
he had
Isabel.
yeah, and he had just simply been like he could not participate, and it was the funniest thing ever.
That's fair.
But that's why Chiefs exploded before finals.
That makes more sense. Because on paper, their lineup is a lot better. They have more
Oh, for
international
sure,
experience. Like
way
you have
better.
Topoon, not sure who the jungler is actually.
Babip.
Oh yeah, Barbip, Tally, Raze, and then like Draco. Like
Yeah, like it's a
that's
crazy roster.
pretty top tier OS talent.
Yeah,
And
that's
then
like the highest you could ever like ask for. Actually, I think no, Arthur was the jungler, not Babip.
oh yeah, because he just came from Korea as well, from
Yeah,
Hanwha.
he came from Korea. Yeah,
Like that comp is so stacked, and the fact that they got beaten by like, well, to me, 5 fucking piss randoms is like is OS fucked, or is OS talent like there?
it's there, but it's just too large of a discrepancy between the top teams in other regions.
Yeah.
Because our top team would only amount to like the mid or the bottom of other regions, which is just like a shame.
It's just so like I don't know. OS scene is kind of just fucked because at the end of the day, no matter what game you're playing, no matter how good at it you are, you're just gonna get like sent off to NA, right? And I think the
Yep.
problem with that is you kind of have to leave behind OS, right? So like you're traveling to a completely new foreign country, completely like new lifestyle, like time zones, whatever, right? Culture changes just to play a video game. And it's not always like as good as it seems in theory, right? Because like playing a video games for a job, right? Like, you know, fucking every kid dreams of that. But it's like in practice, it's actually like a lot more difficult than that. Whether it's just
For sure. It's so like romanticized or like glorified how well it's like being a pro player, but behind the scenes there's so much work to be done,
mm,
so much stress, so much drama, so much sacrifice. Like it's just like uh, you
A
know,
lot of commitment.
a lot of commitment.
Like, I don't think people understand like the amount of hours and time put in each scrim.
Hmm.
And if you don't get a quality scrim, that just feels like wasted time, and it's like probably one of the worst feeling ever.
right.
Then OCE, like, a lot of people aren't even fully committed to the game. The half
Yeah,
juggling uni, it's more of a like a hobby.
Yeah.
yeah.
But other
Because
regions, it's like they're striving to be the best.
no one believes that they can make it out because we don't get those opportunities. Because
Yeah,
Riot just doesn't give it to us. Or like any game gives it to us. Like it has to be like it's like a one-time thing per year,
Right.
whereas like every region has it every like 3 months or something.
I don't know. It's really hard to like I guess because look, if you commit to pursuing esports in OS, right? 90% of the time, because of the commitment you have to make, that means dropping out of uni or like dropping out of like education, right? And that 99% of the time is not really worth it because, as we've already pre-discussed, like the esports scene in OS is kind of doomed, and like you could try as hard as you want, right? But like there's a very slim chance that you do get picked up, and it's like more or less there's a higher chance you don't get picked up, and you just you pretty much have like I guess nowhere really to go because you did drop out of uni to commit to esports, right? Compared to like, and it's like I guess the risk is not worth it because it's like
yeah,
you don't uni is effectively like a backup plan, right? And like that period of uni is like you can I guess go explore and do whatever. I guess that's what they call like quote unquote gap year. But at the end of the day, uni is there to I guess pretty much just catch you if you like fuck up, so you have somewhere still to go. So when you drop out of uni to pursue your esports, especially in like OS, it's like extremely fucking risky. Not many OS players
the
drop out of uni to try go pro. I mean, I know a lot of. It's not really uni, but more so high school. Because I know Fudge dropped out of high school to like pursue his career.
Okay,
Um,
but Fudge was like honestly one of the best that had ever emerged.
oh,
Like that
100%.
man's career was crazy.
Oh, for sure. Most guys don't go to uni to begin with. That's true. Because most of them like drop out of high school, right? Like, I think what I know, someone Oscar and I know, like Sungy,
Mm.
he dropped out of high school to pursue Valorant, and he's like on Kraken right now. And it's
Yeah,
like, you know, you want the best for them, but like realistically, it's like it's kind of a bit like you kind of can't be like too hopium because
Mm.
at the end of the day, it is the OCE, and at like we can't our region is kind of fucked. Fudge dropping out, he was D4 back then.
no, Fudge was a god.
Because I
But
remember he played OCS in like Split 1 2019, but then he was legal to play LCO or OPL in Split 2. But I just he is
his
recently a
run
god.
during in OCE, Fudge had won uh he had promoted his team from open ladder into the OCS. From there, he won the OCS and went to OPL, and from there he won the OPL.
Yeah,
So that man had a career where he had never lost, pretty much.
yeah, pretty much.
So you can't really blame him for like dropping out when it's that good. I don't know his entire story, but I know that was his career history.
I guess. I mean, I guess with that discussion, we kind of did cover contracts, right? But like,
Mm.
I guess not so much on payments now on contracts, but like the terms is like, how restricted are you with contracts? Because like, I have no fucking clue, and like I know you both
Depends on
probably would have had
orgs.
experiences with teams and contracts.
Depends on orgs.
Very much depends on orgs, yeah.
Yeah. Some have like such high restrictions. Some are very lenient.
Examples or
Um, well, at least in Val, some there's some contracts where you're not allowed to. It's actually fucked. You're not allowed to root for another team as well.
Haha, the fuck?
Um, during during it being streamed. Like if your team is versing them, you're not allowed to like root for the other team. And you're not allowed to sub for other teams. Um, like even if it's like within the same org,
Huh?
well,
like
that's actually kind of dumb. Then what the fuck?
you're in your own division and you stay there. You're not allowed to help the other team, even if it's in the same org and someone's like missing or something.
Which
Yeah. Um, these are like things that I've heard because I've never been under those specific contracts. It's just more or less like, you know, you play to represent the team. Um, you're here for a certain amount of time till it ends, and then you can do whatever afterwards.
Right.
OCE is not too much different. Like, we had weird terms, but they were nothing too out of ordinary. But I remember one, which was like, it was the death sentence. So one team, I'm sure if I'm not allowed to name them, but it was a bottom tier team, and one of their terms, they were starting new people, but the contract terms was you had to stay locked in, quote locked in, for the duration of 2 years. So imagine
What the fuck is
signing those
locked
terms.
in?
Pretty much, you were not allowed to seek other opportunities until the 2 year duration or until your contract had been bought out. So
Right.
imagine being the next up and coming faker, but being like manipulated into signing a 2 year contract with a Pistol team.
Isn't that kind of what happened to Kanavi?
Not sure what happened with Kanavi, but oh my, it was fucked.
Because that's actually really fucked. Because then you're heavily limiting your options. Are you guys challenger? Well, we have a challenger or X Pro and a Radiant current amateur, semi-pro, whatever you want to call it, Valorant player and League player here. But it's like, that's actually kind of fucked, because you're kind of griefing the OC scene if you're doing that, actually.
Yeah, it was like you can't respect it at all, and they were signing like a 12-man roster. Like, what the fuck?
What?
Like,
Yeah, it's
were there
like
going to
That
be two
doesn't.
teams, or is it like 12 man on like one roster?
a 12-man on one roster.
Nah, that's dude. Just make a fucking separate team with 2 subs, bro.
Yeah, what?
Like that
What
doesn't make any logical sense.
what everyone said was that like this team was always doomed to become the Pistol team, like the team that people like amateurs went to only because they had no choice, and
Well,
that
yeah,
team had made money from buyouts, so they signed everyone and hoped they signed like a retarded faker who locked themselves in 2 years,
Yeah,
and 2 years in the OCE, death sentence, like you're fucked.
pretty
yeah,
much. And it's like, I feel like if
because the
you're...
scene
Sorry, go.
dies out. No, because the scene just dies so quickly as well.
Exactly,
So
Yeah.
like by the first year, you're already burnt out.
for sure.
And the thing is, right, because where it's like OS, right, if you're up and coming, you pretty much always want to take whatever opportunity you can, right? It's like, you're not going to say no to like your first contract. But then that's the big problem, right? Because you're not going to say no. You don't... The thing with up and coming players is they're so eager to, like, I guess, get into the scene that they don't actually like properly read the contract, and that just... They pretty much either grief themselves, like, most of the time they grief themselves, like, sometimes it's not bad, but, like, because they're so wanting to get into the scene, they don't really see, like, the negatives, I guess, of what could happen.
Yeah, but contrary to most things, otherwise I think it's fairly reasonable, like the contract terms. Out of all the cases and out of all the contract offers I've seen personally, like being signed into 2 years was the most ridiculous one. But
Yeah.
everything else was very fair for a player and organization, like kind of agreement.
Well, what about
I
you then,
think
Oscar? What's like the...
I
what's...
think one of the dumbest contracts I've heard. Um, well, the funny thing is they have like I think 4 or 5 teams under the org.
Right.
But the thing is, you can only have one team um, per division, because if you have 2 teams under the same org in the same division, it causes a conflict of interest,
Yeah, that's true.
and you just get disqualified because one team can just throw for it. But the thing is, these contracted players, they don't get paid to play. So they pay for their own entry fee, right?
Right.
But if they win any of the um, the org actually takes like a big percentage of the prize money if they win any.
Yeah. And the prize money isn't going to be massive as well.
No, it's not. And they take a percentage of it if they win any, but they don't get paid any money to play it. And they have to pay their own money to even play, which was probably one of the dumbest things I've ever heard.
Yeah. Honestly, like I get the thing is that's actually like somewhat common, right? Because for me personally, working in like the varsity scene for uni, our club, we any winnings we get, I'd say at least 50% goes to the club, right? And then the other 50 is split between players and staff. So realistically, the player only gets around like 8% of the cut. And that in itself is pretty fucked as well, because sometimes the club won't pay for your entry fee, right? Like, it's not always confirmed. Like, if they do, alright, it's cool. But if they don't, right, it's like you're not guaranteed to make back money, and even if you do win money, it's like you're still at a net loss. And that's pretty discouraging for like most players. But like I think it goes back to the point where it's like players are so willing to just get into the scene and get exposure that they don't really care about this stuff. And it really does, I guess, fuck with you, because it's like, what's... I guess it all comes down. It all comes back to the point of like, what's the point in OS? Because like, no matter how good you are, unless you're in another region, you're not exactly going to get noticed.
Do it for fun.
That's
all.
actually true. I think for fun is probably like the best.
I guess it's good experience as well.
Yeah.
Like, even if you don't end up going pro, it's like you kind of understand why it's not viable if you do go for it, or like
Yeah.
how difficult it actually is.
Because the way most people see it, it's like, it's not really a job because it's playing video games, or it's like,
It's a good reality check.
yeah, and like it's like quote unquote the dream job for kids because you know you get paid for playing games. So like, shit, you don't get paid like almost anything, right?
Mm.
And it's like
Yep.
the money you do get paid, it's so fucking little that it just doesn't matter. I sometimes it can just barely make up like a week of rent depending where you live, right? And it's like you just do it for the experience and you either do it for fun. Like I think if you're gonna commit to be serious, it's just like really hard. Like you're gonna really struggle if you like don't, I guess, put everything to one side and just fully commit to like the game.
Yeah, some people get like a week rent as payment for the split.
Yeah, like especially like okay, specifically Sydney, right? Sydney rent fucked, really fucked.
Yes,
And
sir.
the amount of money you get paid, I don't even think you can last a month. Like keep like for to pay rent. And so the thing is, like most players, I'm assuming most players have to have side jobs because they don't get paid enough. I mean, I don't actually know because wouldn't most players live in gaming houses, right? That's like paid by the team or by the org, or is that just like only
Uh,
NA?
I think that's just high, like a lot bigger orgs.
Yeah, like high
So
end
like,
orgs.
like orgs like Order, you know, they would
Yeah.
probably have it funded for them.
Like Order, like the big OS orgs, like Order Chiefs. What else is there actually?
Peace.
Legacy? Must-
Legacy's kind of dying out, I'll be honest.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure Lexi didn't have a gaming house.
But
But
it's
they
like-
were up there.
They were definitely up there.
yeah,
Back
because
in the days.
In terms of financials, they were definitely up there.
yeah, and it's like if
I've
you're on
heard
like
about
any
Legacy
other team
majors.
that's like not a big brand, it's like you're not gonna have enough money or like financials just to sustain yourself, and it's like it's just not gonna be sustainable. I mean, I guess
Yeah.
we kind of already answered it, but like, what would you really say to people looking to like, I guess, still try to go pro or like, I guess, look for, I guess, opportunities in the esports scene?
I think if you want to go pro, kind of climb the ranks solo queue wise to the top. Probably make a bit of content based off of it just to kind of get yourself out there and kind of talk to like people in that scene who have these kind of connections.
Yeah. I think the biggest thing is you have to have connections in OS.
Yeah.
OS
for
is
sure.
small enough that you can make connections, right? But it's like you have to make connections with the right people as well.
It's very very gay kept. Like
Hmm.
up in Hilo, there are so many like different friend groups of like the different Hilo players. Like there's fucking the Chinese, and then there's the veterans, and then there's the
Yeah.
Pislos, and the one. It's just like it's more. The opportunities will find you if you're good enough. But
Yeah.
if you're seeking
Mm.
opportunities, then play for fun.
Yeah.
That's all.
Take it with a grain of salt.
Pretty much, yeah.
Because like at the end of the day, right? Fucking OCE is OCE.
Yeah.
Like
Oh, water.
you have a higher chance of becoming a bigger content creator than you do of becoming a pro player.
It's because they love the Aussie accent, bro.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Like, you know, big example, we all know, Mr. Schrodinger Ratley.
Oh yeah.
Man, fucking
God.
exponentially.
I only know Rat Dude 2244.
Oh, you too? Shit, that guy's been climbing the ranks recently, bro.
Yeah,
But
god
like,
damn.
man puts in
Damn.
so much hard work, right? Where it's like, if you were to do the same in like going pro, the results wouldn't exactly be the same. Like obviously,
Um,
it's not guaranteed results, right? Even for like content creation and stuff. But it's like because it's like
It's-
how do I say it? It's like I guess being using technology to his advantage. I guess actually you could say because like with TikTok and stuff, and because he like he almost endlessly pumps out TikToks, right?
I
He
just think it's.
grows. Sorry.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I just think it's easier to stand out content-wise than it is in a skill professional way
Yeah.
because when you play at a high level, it's like what makes you stand out from others. Like I guess with League, you have more like a lot of champions to kind of like differentiate people.
Right.
But with like Val, it because the agent pool is so much smaller
The all same
and
shit.
it's like all the same things. Like
Right.
nothing really strikes out as okay, like we need this guy.
Mm.
Like oh, he just has better aim and good game sense. Like, he can click heads better. That's kind of like, what people like seeing.
Because in terms like if you're watching a streamer for like just watching a streamer, it's either because they're really good or they're really funny,
Hmm.
and it's never anything else, right? And it's like it's a lot easier to just be really funny than it is to be really good.
It's because I'm horny. That's what I'm watching.
Yeah, okay, true. CK
Amaranth?
sends me the like the most sketch Twitch channels, and it's just like
Amaranth?
Raptured.
not gonna dox you on stream, but like,
Any Amaranth watches?
and that's like, I guess we're kind of delving into like content creation a bit more, right? But like, it's more like that's why like I guess bathtub streamers, right, are like such a big thing for like the people like CK who are perma down bad. That's where they
What are
go.
we talking about? Bathtubs is all metal, bro.
But it's, I guess, if you're looking to still, I guess, pursue esports, it's like it's so much easier just to, like go as a streamer rather than like be signed as a streamer rather than being signed as a player. Because you can still get signed to a team, but like as a content creator, it's a lot easier
Hmm.
than it is being a streamer, like than a like pro player. Because you earn more as a content creator as well.
Contrary to popular belief, getting signed as a streamer doesn't do shit for you anyway.
Yeah, I was gonna say, getting signed as a content creator,
They
like
don't give you fucking
I
anything.
don't
It's
think they
just like
give you
another
anything.
avenue to advertise yourself. But that's
Yeah.
it.
Pretty much, but that
It
org, it does nothing for
I
you,
feel
bro.
like if the I feel like the org would have to be big for you to want to actually like
Yeah,
be
Yeah,
signed by them,
like
because then you get more exposure from them.
yeah, it has to be like one of the big orgs, like Order or Chiefs. But like even then, it's like kind of eh.
Yeah. Very, very eh.
So like, I don't know. I
I
think
wouldn't
if,
even sign the OCE org if I was a content creator, to be honest.
yeah,
No, neither.
it's
Does
just
nothing for you. Sorry, that's the reality.
no. That's just how it
Breaking
is. Though.
news.
It's
That's just how it
really
is.
rough in OS because
It
we
is
lack
what it
It is
is.
what it
we lack
is.
funding, we lack opportunities, we lack skill, we lack
Bro.
money.
Oh, fucking money ain't worth shit,
Yeah,
man.
shit. Like our fucking exchange rate is terrible as well compared to US EU. And
Mm.
it's like at the end of the day, it really comes up to like, how much are you willing to sacrifice for like potentially nothing?
It's not even a guarantee. I mean, you do have to take risk, but it's like,
Yeah, like obviously,
is the reward a lot? Like, does the reward and risk equal out,
yeah,
or are you considerably like risking more than you'll get?
like it's you're not gonna. It's really hard to, I guess, get into the scene and like be like, damn, I'm gonna do this and get this because it's never guaranteed. 99%
Never.
of the time, you don't get there, and it's like shit. What have like the past X years been for?
Mm.
And like, you just have to really consider how much are you willing to, I guess, push to the side to commit to something that's so uncertain, especially in this region.
For fun, bro. That's for fun.
Pretty much, I think the best thing like is just do it for fun, do it for the experience, but that's about it. Don't
That's about it, honestly.
like if you make it big, then sure you can go for it, but like don't come into it with expectations of like shit. This is like the dream or whatever, right?
Yeah, like you can be the select few who doesn't like make it, but that is the select few for a reason.
Yeah, you have to like you kind of, it's like you just have to be that noticeable. And I guess that's like either from like building a brand or whatever, like, but it's at the end of the day, just don't go into it with expectations that you'll do well.
Yes, sir.
And I guess it's the same with content creation in this region as well. You do it for fun, and you do it for the experience.
Mm-hmm. The AP more that happens, like yeah, congrats.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
there's
well.
more ways to like get exposure as well in terms of content creation, because you have so many ways to like promote your like, I guess, work through so many different avenues, through social medias and stuff. And I think that's also like a reason why like Lee blew up as well as he did, right? Man actually just blew up because of TikTok. Man's like 2 mil followers on TikTok now, I think, and it's like it's a lot easier to grow, and because of that, right? Because you have so many avenues, it's a lot easier to grow in content creation than it is in like pro player. But yeah, that's. Is there any other final thoughts we have before
Not that I.
we wrap
I
it here?
believe.
Yeah, not gonna. That kind of went by really fast. I think we just got a massive rant, and we just covered all the questions at once.
Oh no, it'd be even longer if we rant about the drama in
Oh, the drama, bro.
it.
You know
I
what?
would have loved to go, but that's so far back.
No,
It's all repressed, bro. It's all
yeah,
gone.
same.
That was.
But it's definitely there.
If I
It's
had a
there.
detailed record, we would be talking for fucking days, bro.
Bruh.
Days.
I don't
Bro,
know.
we'd be cancelled by the 25th hour, bro.
Os, it's just there's so much drama and just so little like gain.
Yeah.
I heard drama and I'm here. My cup is empty. No, there's no drama. But it's at the end of the day, that's just the OCE for you, right? It's a little bit doomed.
Yeah.
And that's like where the joke region, because we're pretty much getting milked by NA and EU.
They call us the down under, man. Like, what more do you want?
Yeah. Like mid beast, right? Man's fucking Australian,
Oh yeah.
but like
kind of
you don't
forgot.
exactly think he's Australian, like because like man's like so big and he's got like sponsored by TL or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Like it's just so hard because what didn't mid beast start off playing pro as well in OS before
Yeah, I
becoming
believe he
content
did,
creator?
yes.
Because I remember he played one game. I know where like a clip went viral where he just like ran it into the enemy base's Yasuo and died.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he did play a
You can
few.
do that.
Back in OPL, he did play a
Yeah, I think it
few,
was like 2015.
but I think he was always on the Pistolo teams.
Yeah.
I was gonna say I can run it down his ass.
Oh yeah, he was on every Pistolo team to exist.
And it's like, I think he's like a pretty good example of like how getting like pro scene in esports. I mean, no, shit, pro scene in OS is a lot more doomed compared to content creation.
Yeah, you really have to just find your own kind of your own niche. What do you do well in?
Yeah.
For the mid-base example, he was not gonna go anywhere as a pro. That is for sure. But he found his success in streaming, so
Yeah.
you just
I
gotta
mean,
work
playing
hard and
against him as well in fucking solo queue, he is not going anywhere as a pro. But that's at the end of the day, that's just how it is in OS.
it is what it is.
It is
It's
what it is.
All right, then I think on that note we can call it there for episode 4 of the Puncast.
Oh.
Puncast.
Sheesh, lad. Alright, yeah, thank you very much to Mr. Hunter Oceania _
Oh my
and
god.
Canada Oceania.
Oh my god, that's me.
So coming on for episode 4 of today's podcast.
Oh my god, that's my name.
Podcast is not on Spotify, iTunes, and whatever, right? all the podcast VODs will be uploaded to my YouTube channel. Do I even have it promoted? Actually, let me check.
No.
Shit.
No.
Alright, give me a sec.
Episode 4 and he still hasn't had it promoted? Oh.
yeah, all the VODs. Does it add command? Fucking whatever. Nightbot. All VODs for every episode is uploaded to the YouTube channel.
Good command. Oh.
I think it's because it's Nightbot. Since where and when, I put it in my announcements.
There you go.
Thank you. Oh, that's just delayed. But yeah. All the VODs are uploaded there. I post them usually after every podcast stream. So if you miss out, you can always catch up. And it's just very... You know, it's nice. And, you know, thanks again to the two sexy boys coming on today's stream that I will definitely see in Sydney.
Oh, I'll see you at the airport, bro.
You know, shit.
Yeah, I'll see you, bro.
But yeah,
Yeah.
no. Yeah, thank you all. Thank you both for coming on. And yes.
Yeah, I'll see you on the plane flight with no legroom.
Oh dear God, it's so doomed. But you know,
That's so
I'll next stream. Shit, when's next stream? Not tomorrow because I have to manage in-house's internals. Maybe Friday. If not Friday, Saturday. If I haven't done my assignment, then Sunday.
Yes.
So
Someday. Not Sunday, just someday. at this
Someday.
point.
So, yeah, that's probably next stream. We'll be finishing off episode 3, season 3 of The Walking Dead. But thanks again to these two
No
gentlemen.
worries.
Oscar
No worries,
and
King.
CK.
I will see you another time. I'll
Yes,
see you when I
sir.
see you.
Yes.
See you when I see you.
Bye bye.
Bye bye. Bye bye.
I dumped the jet. Later.
All right, chat. We're gonna call it here. We are going to raid someone now. You mean up there? Hello? Mosh mosh? You okay?
Hi. You know, because, like, like how I always join for the end of everyone, but I kind of missed the last one.
Right.
Yeah, so I came to say hi, but now I'm going.
Okay. Well then, alright. We'll be raiding Miss Maggie Bun, because she has raided me a few times as well. We'll raid her back. Next week's episode for the podcast is we're talking about moving out, and guests for that are to be determined because I'm still contacting them about their availabilities. So may not be a Wednesday, but we will try out. I'll try my best. So raid message. There we go. That's the raid message chat for you. Yeah, and I'll see you guys sometime this weekend. Someday, not Sunday. And thank you all for coming to the podcast today.